Okay, it should be up and running. Raj, hello, good morning, good day. How are you doing? How clear is that? Okay, there you go. Had the tab muted. Hello. Okay, so today that's Twitch, that's Discord, streamer mode, so I don't get distracted by it. Okay, so today, I may have to make a drastic change to the platform. Well, no, not so much too drastic. I still need certain information, so some of the wire up is not bad. But I'm starting to believe that I've made a mistake in my grouping of work. So I'm going to try and start with talking through how I might use it, try and figure out the use cases, and then see if I can justify or not the actual use case. So right now I'm focused on planning. Planning is aimed at being a collaborative tool that gets to the actual requirements of the system or requirements of the features, etc., without becoming stories, right? So that any planning that never goes anywhere isn't messing up the backlog of work. It doesn't kind of blur the lines. And if anyone has any questions, thoughts, opinions on what I'm doing as I go, you're more than welcome to join in. I'm happy to take thoughts on this sort of stuff. So this is not just, hey, look at me, this is how this is going to work. You know, we build software like this to solve a problem, but we have to understand the problems. And oftentimes we have work put into the backlog that is not necessarily well understood. Sometimes it's on a whim. A product manager or someone will actually, have no real idea about what they want. They just kind of have a general, maybe I could do this. So they might add a store into the backlog. So the planning system is intended to try and cut down the fluff. It's intended to try and make sure that the right questions are asked and the right patterns are followed to get to the work. And again, adding requirements, being able to attach screenshots, etc., will be part of this, and being able to kind of build up what do we want. And now I started to group these by project, right? So you can assign a project, and the project might be, again, product. The organization as a whole will decide what projects are. So the grouping there is not necessarily easy to understand, because in organizations I've worked with, the Scrum board that I'm attached to is kind of the product, or it's a component of the product, right? So it's an organizational tool. It aligns with that. What I'm thinking of is more the Scrum boards themselves will be teams rather than product aligned, and they will be able to work on many products, right? So if a story needs to be in one team, it's assigned to the team. It's not assigned to the actual product. The product is a grouping component. So I was stuck on this concept of this needing to get a unique identifier, right? That is assigned to this project. But when I started to think about it, well, if I'm building this out, right, project identifier, let's say I've got to think about some really good, strong use cases for planning. Like this is a hard part for me as well. Good day, Mr. Jones. How are you doing? Pretty happy. The cough, is it going away? That'll be the first thing I'd be happy about on a Friday. No, no. You get a pay raise? Nice, congratulations. So yeah, I did. Lead dev, nice. Congrats. Without any of the interview crap. That's impressive. That's cool. Well done. Sincere congratulations on that one. Sounds like you are, you know. So it's the same company, just it's a sideways move. Oh no, not a sideways move. It's an increased move, but same team or different team. Sounds like you do a lot in your current organization. Okay. I was told about a role in another team, said I didn't want that team. There was another area who had the same role up, so I said I might consider that. So they decided to move the budget from the team that I don't want to go to my current team. Oh, nice. Nice. Get to stay where you are and get a lead dev role. That's fantastic. Sounds like a company that is happy to keep hold of you. Okay. Okay. So let's say this is less story-like. Let's say this is actually deliver customer deliver email notifications uh, customer delivering customer reports when a customer Apparently, I've got a job offer card a couple of years ago to get a nice pay bump, but that was more to get me in line with peers' national average, according to my research. I thought I was being underpaid, and I got an 8K bump without having to prove the offer, so I guess I was right. Yeah, it's important to remember that you got to keep an eye on where things are moving. I was working, the first place I was working at when I moved to the US. I was kind of appreciative I had a job because again I moved countries and I was a little, scared when I did so because I don't have an education, right? So there's no degree or anything backing me up behind this. So I was a bit scared. I'd been working for that point 8 years. So I'd been a developer for quite a while at that point, but I still was unsure of myself. And after a year, they bumped me like a few $1,000s, but I was on like $46,000 as an 8-year dev. And I was looking it up and I'm like, well, hold on. Jobs in this area around 65, 70K, right? So I'm like, okay, no, I'm gonna complain about this. So I went to them and said, look, you're not paying me what I'm worth. I would like to talk about how we change that because I want to be, paid fairly. And I didn't threaten another job. I didn't do anything like that. I didn't look at any other roles. I just looked at the averages in the area, and they were around, almost 20K higher than where I was. And they agreed and bumped me, similar bump to you, right? They bumped me immediately up and said they'd work to correct that by the end of the year. And yeah, it's something that like I get why people don't want to discuss what they earn. But I think understanding what you're worth and within an organization, being paid fairly for your efforts, like they should review that more deeply. And yeah, it's like I was thinking about this the other day. I'm thinking like the US kind of dissuades discussing, and some companies actually say, you should not discuss with your peers your salary, etc. Mainly for fear if they're rewarding someone and they've tried to pay a larger amount to get hold of someone that you don't want to rock the boat, you don't want to make people upset, and you know in this country bonuses are common. In the UK, I don't think I ever got any bonuses. I mean, I think maybe the one company I worked at may have given like Christmas bonuses and stuff, but we're talking a couple £100. Here we're talking thousands and thousands of dollars as a bonus, performance bonus. Luckily, my bonuses have all been tied to company performance more than my performance, which is pretty nice. So you're kind of rewarded for making the company do better. Um, yeah, people, you should be being paid what you're worth, and it's worth keeping an eye on all the time. Um, and it's not just, and that's why we get time on job, senior developer, like being labeled as a senior developer, all that sort of stuff is kind of eh. Um, you know, um, Fenris Games, thank you very much for the follow. Welcome. Afternoon, Pat. How's it going? It's going well. Just having a bit of a conversation with Mr. Jones about salary and stuff, but I'm starting to work on stuff today. How about you? And Pal, are you another UKer? You're lucky you get any bonuses, bro. I got none in my job, but the public service life. Yeah, yeah. I fully appreciate it. I'm lucky in that respect. It's I moved to the US in 2007, and I've done okay. And I am lucky in that respect. So it's pretty cool. Again, moving countries with no job to go to was terrifying. So yeah. I'm pretty lucky. Been in the army 20 years and got a job title that sounds better than it is. Nice. 20 years. Nice. That is a cyber warfare instructor teaching networking fundamentals. That's an important thing. Dota, good morning. The military and the government in general are normally ridiculed for their understanding of technology, right? So often I can't grasp how civilian life works, to be honest. Can I imagine after 20 years it's pretty difficult to because I you know we have a conversation going in the Discord about how work is planned and pointed and whatnot, and the one thing that we don't talk about is how it's just like office culture and the way people work. I can imagine going from a military environment into an office environment would be quite the change. TikTok of a blue collar, we're talking to a white collar worker. And Windows XP terminals and floppy disks running before. Man. Okay. Just now, work is done from a fundamental level. We can be entirely different species down to how we speak. Yeah. And I would imagine more direct because you've got a command structure as well. An actual command structure rather than just some people trying to pass work off onto others. Manufacturing plants as high school, college workers and white collar workers. It really is two different cultures. Yeah. As much as we are all humans, we can all be very different people, right? Okay. So, yeah. So what I'm building here, talking about, organization planning, etc., is a tool for actually planning work, right? So splitting out the piece of the whole agile process, building an actual planning focused component first that will ultimately go on to generate stories. And what I'm trying to do is write something that's kind of meaningful that in the group 05 2024 Jane Smythe project. So this project thing is what I'm debating right this second, whether I just back this entire thing out or I proceed with it, right? So that does that, and then we add requirements, right? So an email is produced as per template. So I'm just trying to highlight something with just random thought, but trying to put some structure to this. Again, what I'm trying to do right this second is kind of go through some of the use cases to try and validate whether I do or do not want projects to be a component of planning necessarily before I go too far ahead and do some wacky code, right? And Fenris Games, your name is Fenris Games. Do you develop games or do you in your spare time? Used to stream games. Okay, gotcha. Maybe realize it. So 1 second, Delta. I'm gonna read your comment in a second. Yeah, my tag being TBD gamer and being a app dev. The gamer comes from I collect retro games, so no longer have the time or inclination to do. Streaming is a lot of hard work, and streaming games, I don't envy game streamers. It's a much harder world. Maybe realize I had 2 database ideas that are competing with each other, and I should pick one to do it. That activity I told you yesterday about, here's what I ended up with. Oh, nice. Good. I actually went ahead and bought that book. I just need to, and I have some spare time this weekend, so I'll probably read that over the weekend. I took a look and I was like, okay, I'm gonna pick that up. I've considered streaming some networking lessons and banging them onto YouTube, to be fair, but not something that'll happen soon. Yeah. It's a lot of hard work to produce any content, so you know, when you don't have a lot of spare time anyway. Yeah, it's a short, easy read. Skim it in 30 minutes. Yeah, yeah, I actually spent 6 hours on a phone call yesterday with work, and in the end, I just basically was like, "No, this ain't gonna work." Project Right, CGC, Project Right Performance C. Who, why, how, who? Nice. That's pretty cool. Basically, writing out my reasons to do something was a good idea to clarify the projects. Yeah, I can see that for the structure that helps. My problem's always been I'm not a very big note taker, right? I'm not a very like writing things down doesn't always firm things up for me, which is kind of, you know, funny that I'm, pardon me, focused on gathering things and gathering requirements, etc. It's carry brain fart up because if I don't, I'll forget what to do. Or a physical book with all the notes and stuff. On the customer dashboard. Okay. literally a physical notebook with a task list in it, but then I generally manage between 12 to 25 people on a daily basis. So there's a lot of tasks. I see that too, yeah. 12 to 25 people. It's funny. I was in my previous employment, I was leading a team, and there was only 3 people on the team. One of which wasn't really my team member per se, but I was kind of leading the team and then managing interactions with an Indian team. And when it comes to software development, having anybody to work with it can be tough. But when you're trying to manage a team and get them focused, and they have, you want people to have their own brain. You want them to think for themselves and be able to have an opinion. And then when you go to lead and they have an opinion, and you're like, well, hold on, my opinion overrules yours. That's not an easy situation to deal with. And I do want to get back into team leadership. Right now, I'm not doing any team leadership. I'm pretty much solo. And being able to guide, I think I enjoy that more. Being able to kind of direct and guide people and help them over humps and problems. Minus the managing people, it can overrule subtly or not. Yeah, it's tough, especially when you've got to make a decision, and that person say, "Oh well, this could all blow up in our face and go wrong," and you have to say, "Okay, what's our option?" And you kind of have to talk them through, and in the end, you're like, "Do it." Well, I don't agree with doing it. I don't care whether you agree with doing it. Do it. If it goes wrong, it goes wrong, right? We have no option. So, there's sometimes you have to commit, right or wrong, good or bad. Yeah, but I do like being able to I think I like mentorship the best. Being able to work with someone and help them think through things and stuff. That's my favorite thing to do. But anyway, okay. So the point I'm trying to make, and the use case I'm trying to think through here is this realistic, right? So when we're talking about what I'm not trying to put in here, by the way, Delta, just to go back to the conversation that you that I loved you guys having in the Discord. I'm not trying to present epics here, right? The initiatives idea, that was kind of funny that Apex brought that in. But the planning items, the intent is to kind of let the product team figure things out. So this could end up as an epic if they don't know how to group things, but at least it allows them to kind of figure out what they're after, right? So again, I'm not sure this necessarily needs to live with a project, because stop talking about things that happened just yesterday. We're in a pinch, still trying to get the release out. I fixed some issues found in the RC and was trying to get it merged into main so we can create a CI build to test out the changes, then make the next RC. Anyway, PM was doing the PR review and brought random new things that don't affect this current release. But what if? What if the customer enters more than one line? If you have not been in online's stream before, I highly recommend it. Also does application development .NET stuff, and on Fridays has an awesome community day. And when people join in, it is a lot of fun. Releases are typically stressful, in my experience. I think we make releases stressful because we try and we either overload them, or we kind of aren't confident in pieces, and yeah, and our CI pipeline is broken anyway. Auth issues with the company or NuGet feed. Oh, yeah. I was I was watching Exokamil last night, and he was working on unit testing his logging in the client, because he's put like colors on his logs. So if errors happen, like console log stuff, right, they will come out in the right color, right, into the console log. Like errors will come out properly if he logs errors, etc. And he was unit testing it in the client. I've never seen someone build so much infrastructure around code, like from the start, like following, here's what we would like to do, rather than being, here's what we'd like to do, here's what we will do. And it's a great deal of time. And I wonder if, when you're working with other developers, if that practice is easy to maintain, because it's a lot of groundwork stuff that needs to be in the code and from the start. So you end up with someone building something that maybe not everyone understands, and over time, we have a tendency as human beings to say, we'll just do this. That it's not really, it's not even pragmatism. Oftentimes it's just that urge to get past the thing you're on quickly, and we introduce problems because we just keep trying to do that, right? So releases are typically stressful because either, there's a business expectation that's like, hey, you must be available 24/7, or you must be available on Saturday morning because we need to test it, or we're not sure this test is run properly, or we've had issues with the deployment before because our scripts don't work, or we have no way of testing this in staging so that when it goes to production, the first time we'll actually see it. We kind of make these things, and the business pushes forward. Good morning, Disco. The business pushes forward, and we don't stop and say, hey, no, we need to fix this. It's a problem. Testing is a massive effort at all levels. So, but again, we keep pushing forward, and you hear these stories of these companies that are like, oh yeah, this just works. We can turn these things off and on, and etc., and it just works. Does it really all the time? Are you sure? Would everyone agree? There's always massive manual testing, and sometimes the devs don't bother with any automated in those situations. That seems wild to me. Well, I mean, testing is only as good as the people. Like testing is not as good as the people. Testing is only as good as the scenarios you've dreamt up, right? And that's another problem. Like what I was mentioning, right? Brought up random new things that don't affect the current release, but they still brought them up, and well, what if, and that's how developers get into defensive programming and start to write things into the code that are lies because they think it could happen. What if this is null? If that's null, things have gone wrong. Like, let's not try and hide that fact. So, yes. Is defensive programming bad? No. Overly defensive programming is, though. So defensive programming in so much as putting a try-catch with the right exception around an HTTP request, right? Making sure you're capturing the exceptions you need to capture, not a try-catch exception, right? Because you're scared something is going to break, right? If you're just wrapping try-catches around code because it might break, that's defensive unnecessarily, right? There's another consideration. Is the client or business giving the developers the opportunities to write automated tests? Sure, it should have been done from the beginning, but this code base is 10 years old. Yeah. And what's the time investment if you do versus if you don't? And if you don't, the time investment isn't zero. I mean, in terms of defensive, or so there's a balance of good versus bad there in defensive, and being defensive over things, making sure you're writing automated testing. Okay, yeah, but yeah, finish on the defensive thing. Yes, it's bad if it's done without thought as to what you're actually validating, right? So don't just wrap try-catches around things. Don't just say if this is null when it can't be null or it shouldn't be null, and just return something or return null or something, right? Make sure that you are going through and making sure the system can tell you when things happen that shouldn't happen, but automated testing. We have automated tests, Selenium tests and unit tests on code. But again, the unit testing, developers don't always agree on what good unit tests are. So standards there, practices there. The problem is when you're working in an organization of multiple people, like multiple teams per se, if you're doing code reviews for each other, context is lost, so you don't always get the right validation that tests are good. As far as automated testing goes, developers writing automated tests, that's hard. I've kind of gone through some of the things I want to do with this. Automated testing of this right now is probably something I should pick up pretty soon and figure out, the same way as deployment, right? Before it gets too big and unwieldy, having some, automated tests around, okay, can I test this API out, right? Because I could automate the auth0 login to get me a token, right? So I could do that and then validate that given a user, I can log in, I can add this, add that, etc. Poorly tested features are going to cause extra work from QA and lengthen overall deployment of new features. But again, it's all based upon understanding. If you don't understand and that's kind of why I'm focusing so much on this part, right? And I said it in the chat that we have in Discord. The problem is that we don't spend a lot of time figuring out the requirements. So QA should be involved in this conversation, right? So QA is, and I kind of forgot QA in my I kind of lumped them in with development, to be honest. People need to understand the software you're building, and they need to understand the cases you're working with from the start. If they understand it from the start, then that QA is covering what should happen. So if you miss a unit test or you miss a scenario, QA should find it, right? Yeah. Since knowing how to write testable code improves code, yes, absolutely. Because you're following practices that help maintain that keep the test in flow. So 100% help writing testable code improves the code. Yeah. Apex, good morning. How are you doing? But again, involving people, discussing the software, planning things out is the kind of all lead to better software in the end. But it's the time, and like one line said, is the client or the business giving the developers? In the case of the client, if you are, contracted out to someone, then they have an expectation. But at the end of the day, you're the expert as well. So it's up to you to relay things properly. I'm not passing that back to you one line. I'm just saying, like, we don't do it, but it should be possible to do it, right? I think it was, can't remember who it was, but I remember reading something many years ago about firing the customer, right? The customer has to trust that you are the expert, and you should treat them with respect, but in the same, they should treat you with respect because you are the expert. I'm good today. It is Friday. I have a 4-day break coming up. I'm going to play games. I'm going to stream. I'm going to stream playing games probably. Yeah. More complicated software will need more testing. Also, I can get away with not testing Moise on a new project for sure, especially since I know how to write testable code. But one of the things, and again, the reason I'm questioning this right now, I'm thinking through this, and I'm not writing a lot of code because I'm thinking about it, right? If I proceed with the plan that I have right this second, I will cost myself potentially a lot of work, right? So I'm trying to think through this use case before I go and back things out or continue down a path, right? So yesterday we're talking about, okay, well, filtering the project, right? So being able to say, okay, I want planning items for this project, planning items for this project. But at this level, does a planning item know what project? And again, if project is a label, essentially, so is project a driving feature of planning? I don't think it is. I think the product is the driving feature of planning, and one or many of these could actually end up on different pieces of the software. Well, this is the product team. This is aimed at being a discovery tool. Ultimately, I am the product. Hold on. I said this the other day. I need to sit down and write some personas out to make sure I'm clearer about this. Product manager versus project manager. I believe project manager is above product. Oh, we've let them know. I personally have been trying to sell the idea that they would be spending less resources on time spent on bug fixes if they allow us to spend one release or at least part of a release cycle on writing automated tests and doing some refactoring. Unfortunately, they keep seeing there's no value in that. It's difficult to convince them otherwise. They need to see features because those are value added. Yep. Testing doesn't just show your code works though. Tests also become your code documentation of how the system currently works. Well-written tests do. Yeah. A product manager is in charge of a product from the beginning of its life cycle to its end. This means they set the vision of the product, direct any updates, and make sure the product is filling customer needs until the product is retired. Unlike project management, product management usually doesn't have a clear beginning and end. A project manager oversees projects from start to finish. Projects are a set of tasks designed to achieve a specific goal. Projects can be a gig, right? So product manager is who this is, right? We are a product member, right? I might be a product team member developing requirements. If you understand Excel a little too well, will Excel make significantly more money adding another formula at this point? I'd argue absolutely not. Would they make more money improving the performance of the application? I would say yes. Yeah. In the past 5 to 10 years, what was likely their most profitable feature? Probably switching from a one-time cost model to a subscription. Yeah, subscription is where it is at, right? In terms of software. Think about how that charging model goes. Right? You actually have to remove serial numbers and authentication with the software. So you have to remove an entire system one way or another of product licensing to then switch it out for a system that is dynamic licensing and charges differently. So again, you might think that's a simple thing, but imagine if that code was written very much for purpose and now it needs to change to be adapted. Do they adapt it or do they rewrite it as well? Right. So now if you go and look at the subscription system, does it look like a system that was made for producing serial numbers and charging one-time fees? Or does it look like a system that is built for subscription? So there's a lot involved in just changing a product from a licensed product to being yeah, right. That if your devs don't understand testing, it's a large ask, right? And I don't know about you guys. I hope you are all in organizations that have a load of developers that understand what unit testing looks like and what testing in general looks like. But I would bet no. If you're honest, what percentage of your development organization understand unit testing, and then what percentage of your management level understand testing as a whole and its impact on the software? So again, what I'm doing here is I am a product team member developing these requirements, and the idea of the planning system is to try and not produce stories unnecessarily, so we don't end up with a backlog full of rubbish that people have kind of dreamt up, right? The dreaming up can happen independent of the actual planning, the actual software that we need to develop. So The idea being that stories that live in the story system only work to be done. They are not dreams or thoughts. And it being a large ask makes it difficult to get time to even attempt it. Right. If you're trying to say, hey, we need to do this, right, and the organization can't see the financial benefit because they can't see a feature, the only option you have is to move forward, right? However, when things go wrong, it might seem petty, but highlight what practices would have avoided the problem you hit. It's an I told you so, and that's the worst thing to swallow, but it is a necessary. Like, by the way, had we spent this time doing this, this is not, you got to make sure that you are not saying, hey, we deliberately did this, right? But being able to say, look, this practice would have changed the outcome. Yeah, the retrospective postmortem. I hate postmortems because every postmortem I've been a part of came down to, so who's to blame? I think of that Trello board CM Griffin has, where he just collects his ideas and sorts them slowly over time. You essentially want that. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm building a planning thing that doesn't actually produce any work items out of this piece. The work items are produced by me going through and reviewing this and saying, yeah, these are the work items. What I liked we do is give the dev who made the mistake back the mistake. So you realize where you messed up and that practices would have fixed it. As long as, do you give them support? Like, is it you messed up, you take the problem back, right? The problem with that is sometimes that mistake might have been a misunderstanding, or it might have been a lack of knowledge. So you got to make sure you don't have them just whacking more code in to solve the problem because they're scared they'll make another mistake. Oh, those are being done wrong. Postmortems need to be blameless. Yeah. Regular retros seem good. Occasional postmortems would suck. It's pretty factual for us. Here are your bugs. But do you assist in helping close that gap? Honestly, we do so much review before the end. PR at this point is rare. There's large deviations. Okay. But here's another challenge, right? How many meetings do you want? How much time do you want to spend discussing the software versus doing the software? And this is all relevant, by the way. This is very relevant to this entire thing. Every 2 to 3 days we have a meeting. How long? Right. If you're having postmortems often, you've probably got a problem. Actually, meetings are worth it if they're in the afternoon, especially. So they're valuable meetings. If the software comes out maintainable, testable, I'm happy to do whatever we need. Yeah. Meetings are hard. From a dev perspective, these meetings are definitely worth it. Managers might feel differently since they are kind of giving more than taking in that exchange. Yeah. One of the things I've found is hard is if you're having a meeting that's focused on the development and you have a product team member there, sometimes the focus can shift to I want this, like it becomes driven by someone's requirements rather than actually having so yeah, meetings are difficult. Sorry, I'm just trying to keep an eye on the doggos. Gotcha. So what I'm doing here is trying to determine ultimately whether I need this, and I don't think I do, because I don't think you care about the project at this point. The project that it's assigned to is a label that's really best picked when you're deciding where the work sits. So my thought so far, and so planning items kind of belong to somebody, right? Everybody is going to own them, right? It's not the assigned to can be different than the created by, but ultimately the created by is the person who owns it to start with until it's assigned. But the product that it even sits on, the project, whatever organization you have, is not worth grouping by at this level. This is aimed at a discovery, discussion. So the idea would be that you sit down with this and you go through what it is. I made a comment saying, I was saying, I'm not trying to recreate anything. I haven't even seen what you're talking about, but I'd want ideas more solid than that before they go in there. So this could be evolutionary, right? So it's not just whack an idea in here and let it sit there, right? Again, the review date. Don't forget that review date is going to be necessary. So you have to put something to say, I'm going to come back on this, right? The idea is that this is the piece that can be reviewed by product with the developer. So he has a Trello board where if you give an idea in chat and he thinks it's worth it, real low bar, he'll put it somewhere on the board and he sorts the board by good versus bad. Right. So let's say your CEO comes up and says, hey, I want us to be able to, I want us to be able to do produce widgets monthly or something like that, right? They want to come up with a feature. And they give you a kind of dream description, and you set a review. You say, okay, yeah, we'll review that in the next planning meeting, and we'll review that on the 14th. And they can be attached to this. Remember, with the notifications piece when we do it. Right now, you have to select a project. Right. Good afternoon, Ramblin' Geek. So they dream up some features, and you kind of then go and gather the requirements. You kind of figure out what do you need to do to achieve this feature, and you can add stuff in here. If it's CEO, it might be a pretty well thought out feature. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. I've met lots of CEOs, and I've seen some of their ideas. Some of them are, I was in the bath last night and I thought about this cool idea. Right. Because that's what they're paid for. They're paid to come along with, this is coming along. Nice. Thank you. So it could be something like that. It could be driven in a similar manner to CM Griffin's, stream stuff, right? It could be driven that way, right? It could be you actually have a requirement from a customer. You're planning it, right? This is the idea here, is that this doesn't get in front of developers, and that's why I'm breaking it out as planning, right? So that this is never going to see a developer until you're ready to talk about it with developers. There are times you'd want it in a Trello board. Right. Don't forget, this is the visualization of this is not the challenge right now, right? The visualization is just my visualization and it helps me, right? Again, this entire UI is going to get redesigned, right? But this is the planning system, right? So the idea is that these items will be worked on, a product team member is going to come into here. Oh, I've got some more information for this one. I'm going to add this. Okay, now this is ready to become a story, right? You can discuss it with the development team. You can agree upon, okay, well, hold on. Let's go into this one. Okay, well, we've got an email as produced as per template. Well, that's actually not our responsibility. We just send a message. The email being produced per the template is actually Team X's job. This is us. We deal with the dashboard. That's Team Y's job. Okay, so you go and say generate stories. And the idea will be the wizard will say, okay, what stories go with what requirements go with what story, and it will build a story with those requirements, right? And it'll pull them over. If you update the requirements later, it will be tracked, but those requirements will go over. So this is aimed at generating those stories so that the only stories that get produced are meaningful work. Yeah, product requirement docs, yeah. It would be nice to have these alongside our other planning yet. But you're building this. This is evolutionary, right? But the review date means it keeps moving. So this is the product backlog that sits there right now, right? But it's the product backlog. It's not the development backlog, right? The development backlog will still exist with review dates, but that development backlog will be, the goal would be that it would be trimmed naturally because the product dream requirements haven't blurred the lines. Our product requirement docs become epics because this could be an epic as well, right? This could lead to an epic, but I know that you mentioned it in the chat. Initiatives are groupings of these planning items, right? So an epic could be more initiative wise, right? But that's the goal there. Initiatives are kind of the grouping of planning items. Sorry, I mean, it would be nice to be put into the same planning tool as our work items. Right now we have 2 platforms linked for this. Yeah, so what's seen is a way he filters deciding what to build. Right. But it's the process we go through, right? Whether we're doing it like in Trello, your organizational tools. And again, don't forget that the goal of this project is to get as much information to the developer by guiding the rest of the groups and being able to give them all the visibility and accountability without the developer being bothered. So developers can get on with being developers. When you have a meeting, this might be what you discuss, right? So that grooming meeting might be to discuss these items, these planning items. And you're saying, well, hold on, that actual requirement, we can't do that. So let's remove it. Or that requirement needs to change. And we need screenshots on that. And everyone can see that the pieces were put together. And when they're produced, the notifications that go out to tell people, okay, by the way, this planning item produced X number of stories on X, Y, and Z team, right? So visibility, notifications, accountability, before it even gets to developers, right? The developers, once they've gone through this and reviewed it and they're happy with it, stories are produced and go into the backlogs of each team with review dates, etc. again. And then the team gets to point and plan that work. Because it is work that has been decided they've agreed they can take. These are processes that we do. All I'm trying to do is add a little bit of formality and visibility to the side that often gets lumped in with what we do. All right. So what I'm thinking is, and the more I'm talking about it, the more I'm kind of agreeing with my belief. I don't want project to be a component of this, right? As much as this has been a bit of work, right? It's not enough work to worry about. And if I could proceed with this as a concept, well, what if that requirement goes to one project and that requirement goes to another project? What does having a project mean on this one, right? Because again, I was focusing on that prefix stuff. Well, if I think about it, if the project is only a label, well, now my design changes again, right? Because now, where are you? Right now, projects are owned by tenant management. But does tenant management now own projects, or where does projects live, right? So, because everything else, it might just be a label, and projects might be a feature of stories. I'm calling it stories right now, but that's, yeah, development, work, stories. right? Whatever that is, whatever we end up calling that component of the system, that's the actual piece that is going to track the work that needs to be done and all that. But now projects technically could live there because it's just an event that fires out. And then all we need is a label. Because I don't think projects deserves its own component of the system. And again, that one. And again, the reason that I'm building this with the idea of ticketing, planning, and the work all in one system, and it's not totally. I hadn't looked at Monday.com before I even started any of this, but Monday.com does have a platform that kind of does what I'm doing here, right? They treat project management. No, I don't actually want to see it. So project management, plan, manage, and collaborate on any project from one place. Task management, prioritize, assign, and manage tasks from start to finish. Right, this should sound familiar. They apparently have is that what is a hand icon doing for me there? That's some awesome interactivity. Portfolio management, resource management, project management, planning, execution, right? So they do have these concepts. I'm not trying to copy them. I'm trying to do things my own way. Because again, I think it's a little simpler than even that. But again, I'm always happy to take on ideas, workflows. Those shared experiences that you guys put in the Discord, they're awesome, right? I love reading them and seeing the different opinions, and like Dota when we're talking about tasks versus stories. That will be an interesting one when we get to that. Like when we get to the story building, we'll be able to go through some solid use cases, and I'm hoping that can generate some really good discussion around those pieces, because that'll be something we can kind of all relate to more, right? But the planning is a core concept, and that's why I'm focused on the planning piece right now. So that said, do I need project filtering? No. Do I use Trello? I haven't used Trello in a long time. I figure out if I have a Trello account. Do it. They want money to give you an observer link. I see it. I see the board. New project ideas, current focus, performance SQL Lite. Future focus. That's a living board as well, right? So you're moving things around. Just flushing out my thoughts. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm not. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether I'm just not organized or, again, I was saying yesterday the sleep study stuff. Maybe the sleep study will reveal. Well, rather the CPAP when I get it, that extra bit of rest will give me a little bit more focus and energy. C programming language is a bit different. Most of this focuses in the future. Yeah. Okay. So I think ultimately project does not need to be filtered here, right? Adding the filter into GraphQL taught me I probably need to get rid of the interpretive layer, get rid of the specs there, and just go to a regular query side. That will help me speed up that GraphQL layer even further, because it's super slow now, Realistically, I think what needs to happen is I actually need to tag these things. I think tags are more appropriate for this, and maybe project tags. Like, the projects are projects, but having tags available for the projects to say, okay, well, this is this. So you'd see the list of tags up in the top as well, so you can actually filter by what it's tagged by. So tags might be a clearer way of organizing this, because then you could put, dream idea or absolute craziness on there. You could label it any way you wanted to and filter based upon that. And again, don't forget, the review date is going to keep pushing these things up, right? This order right now is crazy because it's just because it's the way I added them, but it should be ordered by the date of review. So this one should be above this one, right? And the review date coming up should matter. So I think, I revert this change. I accept that I was wrong. It's not a good design to put project against a planning item. So what do? Well, we throw away all the work from yesterday, right? That is gone. We delete the branch. I'm committing, by the way. I'm 100% full send on this. I'm not like, what if I'm wrong? I'm either an idiot and I'll have to do the work again, or there is no need to assign a planning item project to a planning item. Planning items may span multiple projects, and limiting them to a project would be a mistake. Sorry. So I'm going to close that as done. No, I don't need to. I'm not getting defensive over that piece. That's Delta. Have a great day at work. Thank you very much. And I don't know if you saw it. I did add a reply to the conversation room yesterday, and yeah, later on. Okay, so we're back here. So now the next challenge, right? projects. This is now all bought, so it's fine. That was all working. That was running still. Huh. So projects, right this second, are very much internal to, so we register a project here. So I don't think I need to necessarily, and this is another beauty of the design here, in that if I need to move this piece, I can just move this piece. Revo, good day. How you doing? What does spike mean? A spike, depending on how a company defines it, there's some difference in what people expect of a spike. A spike should be a very short amount of work to identify any additional requirements or problems for a piece of work that's coming, right? So it's preparation, groundwork sort of stuff. A spike might be identify how you might authenticate with this third-party service, right? So basically go off and read the docs and add into the actual story or gather a documentation together to say, here's how you actually go about this piece. We know we need to do it, but we don't know how to do it. Could be related to innovation too, or a proof of concept, how something works. It could be, but again, different companies define spikes differently. It's kind of what, So the one definition I've seen is a spike should be limited to no more than half a day of work, in which case a proof of concept might not fit in that, right? But in general, spike is discovery of some form. It's, we don't know something, let's go find out. Yeah. Okay, so the way the system is built, right? Even if I wanted to move projects to a different component entirely, like even split out projects, or I wanted to move it to story planning or story or work, we use them for creating technical docs. Yeah, it's kind of work that, and I disagree with pointing spikes, by the way. I think that is a ridiculous practice. Spikes should not be pointed. If you can point something, then you've got work. I don't think spikes should be pointed. I think spikes should be accepted as lost time. Abjit, hello. How are you doing? Welcome. I don't know what a point on a spike means. Time box, yes. Yeah, so we limit spikes to 3 hours, or we don't. My current organization, and especially my current group, we don't use spikes. But we do. I use spikes to ask ChatGPT. Björn Schnabel, hello, how are you doing? Yeah. Spikes shouldn't be pointed because, again, you should understand, like, you're trying to find out what you need to know. So we limit them to 2 to 3 days. Sometimes it depends on how complex we think it might be. But you got to be careful about lost work and stuff. Spikes are a visibility thing. Like, it's work that needs to be done, but it's kind of information gathering for other things normally. So discovery, how we're going to do this interaction with this API, how we're going to use this tool. Can this be done? That might be a spike. So yeah, but okay. So projects. So projects lives in tenant management right now because it's kind of a global thing. If I wanted to move it later, the beauty of the way this is being developed right now means that I can just take the pieces that I need out of here and move them to something else, and they now become responsible. And it can be almost that clean, where I just pop into the other stack. So there is a benefit to the consistency in the way the application is being developed here. But for right now, I'm going to leave projects in tenant management. The only thing I realistically need to remove at this point, because the view still needs to care about the projects, right? The projects are being produced. The view still needs a list of projects at some point. It's just now, what do I need to use them for? Asking ChatGPT for the answer takes 10 minutes, and I take a nap for 2.5 hours. Yeah. Everything I've done so far with ChatGPT is, well, I've had very mixed results. Yeah. Like if you ask it to write a Lambda function and make it refire, it doesn't do too well. ChatGPT is never wrong. Okay, so the thing that needs to change the most upon this is the project identifier needs to go away. This is going to be a pain. I'm going to have to reset the system for this one. The reason I'm doing this, by the way, is I should not be afraid, especially at this point in the development, I should not be afraid to massively change the system, right? Now is the best time to do it. I have no customers. I have no dependencies, right? The only person that's going to get put out here is me. So if this was in production, this would be a harder ask, but it would still be necessary to do, right? To deprecate this. So I have the benefit of being able to reproduce the database. So I can just remove this straight out, delete all the databases and rebuild them. If I was in production, I'd have to come up with a migration plan because I would have to drop the column and make sure if there was data that was necessary, I'd have to, figure out what the migration steps were, right? So, but I'd also have the answers to why I was deprecating this, right? Not just, I don't agree with it being there, so let's remove it. This is an easier change because I'm not live, but it is necessary and it should be done. Well, you can ask it to optimize shader code. It'll try its best. Not too good though. Yeah, ChatGPT is definitely a mixed bag in terms of its value. I do worry about people relying upon it. Sorry. Apparently I'm more tired than I thought I was. Okay. So Copilot has been nice for boilerplating. Copilot, yeah. Copilot's a little bit more useful for me. I mean, sometimes it's completely like, hey, I gave you some code, and you're like, no, that code, no, that doesn't work at all. You just dreamt that up. I don't know where you pulled that from. Okay. I'm I'm contemplating the right way to do this. So the right way, let's do it the right way. I have working code, right? So there's no way there's no way I want to risk it in the long term. So I'm going to make a branch. So I'm going to make an item to track that. I'm going to remove planning items. It's the way you should do it if you were doing it in actual systems anyway, you would plan it and prepare. Planning items do not need to be a component, piece of data attached to a project. Remove requirement, remove drop down, remove API components, remove application components. View still needs to know about projects. So the publishing, the creation and publishing of projects is still valid. It's just the ability to attach it to a planning item that is the problem. Let's go there. Let's create 273 now. So this might seem like a kind of wasted stream because I'm actually discussing and then removing a feature. I'm actually removing code. Remove planning item. Remove project from planning item. But it is a necessary step, and I think it's going to be with the benefit. Is this planning tool any better than Trello or Jira? Is it any better? Well, time will tell, right? The goal is to be something that they are not, and that is more developer focused, and actually more planning focused, with the aim of letting developers get on with developing. So developers don't need to be involved with most of what goes on in those tools, but they are pretty much our daily, I go into Jira, I look at the work I've got to do. I see the progress of the sprint. I have to explain my stories based upon where things are in the sprint, etc. Jira is fine. I mean, I'm trying to build this. I want to build it as a product. Along the way, I will stumble. Even more knowledge is needed. Well, Jira is also, I mean, again, I might hit the same problems, right? But that's one of the benefits of doing this, right? I'm building a system that is complicated, and I might get a year from now and say, okay, now I understand Jira better. I can use Jira better because I now understand why some of this has happened, because I've analyzed it, I've understood it more. At which point this code gets open sourced, right? I will release everything. But I believe there are some things we can do better, and I think there's some things that can keep us away from the tooling, and ultimately you don't care about tooling, right? So why should you care about where that item was that you talked about 6 months ago, when it can be, it's visibly there, it's being reviewed constantly, and people are getting notifications when it moves, and you don't need to be asked. Where are we on that project about the postal codes that we did 6 months ago? I never touched it. That went back to product team, right? That shouldn't be this question the developer needs to worry about, right? Jira is too complex for me. I don't think I've even seen Jira used properly yet, and I've used it for. Do we use it in the? Yeah, we used it at. So I've used it for the best part of 10 years, Jira. Yeah, 10 years, but best part of 10 years or more. So the current place is using Jira with really good patterns. Nice. That's I'm really happy for you with that. That is an awesome thing to have. Yeah. So the goal of this project is basically to increase visibility of the work, increase the transparency of the information, so that developers can get on with developing. They can focus on the work when they're needed. The work can be discussed and planned. We don't build up this massive backlog of dreams and wishes. So the work is the work, and transition through the system is very visible, whether it be alerts and pop-ups, whether it be email reviews, but people can choose what they care about, and they can follow things through from ticketing right through to completion, right? It takes a lot of staying on top, though. To be clear, I think Jira has a lot of issues, especially like you're describing, and simplify that would be amazing. Yeah. So, the reason I'm doing it on stream is because I can lean into people's understandings and opinions on how this should be done as well. Like, just my opinion. If I build this in a silo, I'm going to develop Jira, right? Because I'm going to end up with Jira, because I'm not going to question certain things. But having different people's opinions and thoughts, like just the stories versus tasks. I apologize for ads. They will be starting shortly. They run for about 1.5 minutes. If you are listening to me when the ads start, just let me know, and I will wait. So I'm driving this system very much around visibility of information. So starting from, building these components out, these mini monoliths, popping that data out into Kafka, and having that data able to be distributed, so I can again use, what's the term I keep seeing, data lakes and whatnot if I need to. So analysis tools, search systems, etc. I can extend beyond this data. If I want to produce a third-party API, I can produce a third-party API for the information, right? And that can sit outside. But I can also drive notifications and visibility of things happening in the system. Canny, good day. How are you doing, sir? Hello. Okay, so let's get rid of this. So let's remove project identifier. We break that. Okay, now let's remove project identifier from there, and then let's remove this entire method. Let's remove that entire field. This I will go over at some point. I need to do a bit more reading on some stuff and watch a few videos, but I have had a dawning realization on this practice that needs to change for the good or for the better of the project soon. Remove that. I will read that in a second. I'm just going to go through and remove this. Okay. Good. I was hoping that I would see tests failing. That's good. So now we remove that expectation. And remove that. Oh, no. Let's not get aggressive. Remove that. And now we remove that. And then we can do the same thing over here. And here. And here. There's a system build. Just got back from breaking down boxes for recycle. Absolutely important information. Feature request for far into the future. Auto documentation of change log, release notes, and product spec based on release cycle work items. Which is absolutely possible, isn't it? Based upon the fact I'm publishing notifications. Ooh. Absolutely. That is not a bad idea. That is, in fact, that is a very incredible idea. There'll be two sides. And now we don't need project. Yeah, we don't need projects here right this second. That's that. So that should break down there. Tests, view. If only I had a system to track things that I wanted to play. But this is exactly. Oh, of course we do this when we have a broken system. I want to track that very badly. Expected project ID. Expected project. So, no, that is actually a very, very good idea, and one that I will record, because I think that is a valuable thing to have. When I create the project, that's acquire. Okay, so do we have a build? How's stuff going? Stuff is going well. We're deleting code. We're removing entire features from the system. So, awesome. Awesome. We're about to delete all the databases and rebuild the entire system. So yeah, it's going well. View. Planning items. So JetBrains creating a Visual Studio for C#. I like it. I really do prefer JetBrains tooling in general. I have DataGrip open. I have WebStorm here, right? I just like the environment, and I'm actually liking having Rider open for the C# stuff and then WebStorm open for the Angular stuff. This is a much better editor for Angular than Rider, even though they're based on the same thing. Also well for me, made it past 3 months. Made it past my 3 month at the new job, and after my vacation next week, I'm planning to get more streams running. Nice, congratulations! That's 3 months already. Oh well, congratulations. That is awesome. Install big tools. Okay, so I remove that. I still need projects, so the view will still contain the projects. I'll still be able to go and add projects. They are still a thing. Just right now, I don't need them attached to my project. Right. So let's build that, and then let's go and drop a load of databases. So, let's delete that one. Drop. Let's delete that one. Delete that one. Let's delete that one. Apex better than me. I can't get past 2 months. Congrats. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Reba. May you find a better employer. Okay, so let's create the database. So create database. Okay, so these scripts all should be self-contained. So if I take these now and drag them over to here, right? Then they're ordered, so it should run. And doing this is a very good test of especially because I'm building scripts. I'm not using migrations. I dislike migrations. Just from a just from an organizational perspective, it scares me. But I should be able to recreate the entire system and have it run without panicking that it So running through your scripts like this from time to time is a good measure of how stable the system is to be deployed. Right. So do not be afraid. And planning items, tickets will need to be there, but it doesn't really need to be there right this second because I'm not using it. But the database is going to need to be created. Teams is a whole different challenge right now. I don't think Teams, the idea is that Teams is kind of its own project because people on a team, etc. I don't think that will end up being there. It sounds like you're rebuilding migrations, though. How do the scripts differ? Right now, the scripts are just recreations. They're all creation scripts, right? But making sure that they run constantly, so I can bring the system up. So, from a developer perspective, if you checked out this code and had all the database, wired up, you should be able to just run these and have it work. I did view, yeah. And yeah, I'm essentially rebuilding migrations. I'm building a set of scripts to do the migration in place. So if I add a column eventually, once I go to a point where I can't just recreate it, those are going to have to be tracked. Using the migrations of Entity Framework, I don't like using because they become very challenging. It's the one area where I kind of agree with DBAs. Because you're kind of tied to that software up-down infrastructure. And if something falls out of step or someone adds a column, you are royally done. Or removes a column or whatever, you can be the migration fails. So yeah, the scripts are going to be, but those will be added in, hopefully, but not always. You have to be very, again, it's discipline, right? And the problem is that I have not witnessed any level of discipline in most of the places I've worked, right? If you're working in an organization that is super disciplined about stuff and very regimented, awesome. Like you have really got a good place. But I've never seen migrations work. Well, a dev shouldn't be touching a prod DB, but yeah. To be fair, I've been in 2 jobs since school, but it sounds like you've got some good. You've had some good experiences. But yeah, once you go into production, maybe it's a discipline thing. Maybe it's something that I can kind of move to. Like, there's nothing stopping me from doing migrations right now. But I've seen so many disasters of production systems that it scares me. And maybe I need to just be saying, hey, no, you can't do this without migration. A migration must be created to do this thing. Now, migrations would be hard right this second because it's very fluid. I can use these now, and then if I decide to use migrations at the point where I'm comfortable with the system, I create my initial migration. Right, this is the system as it goes right now. Maybe we try it. Right. Yeah. I wish I could say discipline was there. But every organization I've worked in has ended up in this sort of format. Mainly DBAs will go that route. They do not trust migrations, and entity framework migration, having that table there is scary for them, not for me. Okay, so this should be running. I should be able to go in and add something. I should be able to go and we're going to demonstrate the exact need for this system. Oh, I'm going to have to register everything again. Okay. Well, I guess I get to demonstrate. So if you haven't been in here before, you're about to see the application from the start. The entire workflow. Okay, so let's go to Chrome. The only reason I use Chrome is because it's not the regular browser that I'm using. So I'm using DuckDuckGo, and it's easier for me to just keep it separate. And I know which one when I'm going down to the tabs for the browsers, I'm not like, oh, which one is the actual app in? Okay. So we're going to have to sign up. Oh no, that's bad. The token's still valid, so it logged me in, but I can't be logged in because I don't have a user in the back end. Okay, so we're going to register a user, and this is going to be the customer name is going to be Jeffrey Winkle. There's the email. The password is sheepish 4A. You'd think I'd remember that. I've seen that so much. And this is going to be Winkle Incorporated. 123 Main Street, Hoboken, Hoboken, New Jersey, 09983, country, United States of America. Register. So when we register here, we should get there. That's seeing this screen, knowing what's happening in the backend means that it has gone. It has added the tenant. It has added the user. It has notified auth0 that user is there. And now I can log in with that user. Sheepish foray. So I'm using developer mail, which is just an email that's valid while I have a browser open. Later on, I can use the email still, but it's a completely random generated thing. So now I can accept, and there we go. Reggie, thank you very much for the follow. Welcome in. As always, if you're new to the stream, if you have any questions, thoughts, opinions on what I'm doing, you're more than welcome to share. You're more than welcome to ask questions. The stream is a collaborative one, so I'm good. Good. How about yourself? So before I go too far, the problem I'm going to have right now is I'm not adding permissions. So I need to go into auth0, and I probably should fix that. And kind of get to that point. So what are we making? So I am making as I term it, an agile project management platform, right? So I am building a system. If you do software development for a living, you may have used tools for planning and whatnot. Jira is the biggest one, Monday.com, things like that, where you are expected to gather information together and work on something as a story or whatever you term it. So I'm working on a platform that is going to be my version of those things. And I very much intend at this point to make this an actual product. And I'm kind of focused on this planning component here right now. So what I'm doing is I'm building an application where I can track, I can add in work that I want to do, ideas that I have, and I can kind of work on them and gather that information and ultimately make things that say, hey, you need to do this, 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 and this, and I can go off and work on them and complete them, right? And people can be notified and try and get to the point where a developer just needs to do work, right? That's my primary goal, is to make all the stuff that's the management stuff and the discussion and planning stuff that goes around these systems in these organizations, not the responsibility of the developers to track where they are with things. So the developer can just get on with writing code when they need to, getting more features in there and streamlining this entire process. So I've been building this for the past 8 months-ish. And I stream most of it. It's not open source, but I do stream most of the development on it right this second. And yeah. And I stream it so that people can ask questions. If you have thoughts on what I'm doing, if you have your own experiences, you're more than welcome to share. So right now, what I'm doing off on the other side is I'm just going into auth0 and I'm going to add the permissions to this user to be able to use the system, because there's no permissions attached when you Liquid Sky, all permissions, roles, assign role, tenant administrator. Okay, so now if I go over here and refresh, I believe that should give me the right permissions. So why is that still there? That should not be there. No, that's not what I want to do. It's dawned on me that I was about to revert all those commits. No, okay, hold on. Let's go. Planning items query. Why are you still there? What? That shouldn't be there. That's not. What'd I do? Whoa. Why are you still all there? Because I rolled back. I didn't commit the changes. But I thought I reverted it all. I deleted the branch. But because these changes were never committed, they all still exist. Ugh. So the GraphQL pieces are probably still there. Yeah. Good. Okay, that's a good change. I'm gonna leave that change there. How a professional develop. But this is easy to do, right? I didn't think through that workflow effectively enough, and my working practice meant that I didn't go and check to see that I didn't have any changes pending after I deleted the branch, because I'd assumed I committed everything and I hadn't done. And that is just a failure in my working process. But that is the team member you are working with, right? That is someone on your team has done exactly the same thing I just did. If I committed this blindly because there were so many changes, that would have caused a nightmare for a PR review, because I would have committed a 32 file PR, right? And you on a different team or a different group would have gone to review that and not had context. Use the ref log. Well, I don't need to. I know what I need to remove here, right? I know. I'm just lucky that I ran it. Don't even get me started. I've done as well. Had unsafe files before commit. Right. And if I went and blindly committed this, I would have introduced a feature that would have completely broken once this starts to flow. So, because again, I think as I checked it out, well, I haven't removed the view components yet for doing it. So, yeah, let's roll back that and that. Yeah, all these are good changes. Ooh. I'm glad I ran it before committing. That's just pure luck. What are you doing? No, I don't want you to roll back. What's the point in checking them there and then being completely random on that? I don't want to revert the planning item receiver. I want to do the Angular views, and in view, I want to revert program and query. That should reload. You know what I mean? Yeah. There we go. Now, this piece will get removed shortly, right? We don't need that anymore. But that is I mean, I didn't do it intentionally, but I screwed up. But my bet, I mean, so I suppose Apex, at least you are, yeah. Just use git command line. No, I'm comfortable with this workflow. This is the one I'll forward into. I can use a command line, but I kind of like the tooling. I didn't need to go that deep there. I knew what I needed to remove. Right. Let's stop running. And git command line wouldn't have saved that. I suppose it would have done, because I would have more likely done a git status, and I'd have seen files still after I checked out. So git command line there could have saved me, to be quite honest. But still, I kind of like I like being in this tooling and having yet another window open is not something I need to do. So it's sadly almost that time. Let's get this running. So I have a long weekend coming up. Monday is my birthday. So water drink water next week. Oops. Hi, Duca. So Monday's my birthday. Monday stream may be a little bit broken up. It will be longer. I probably will do some dev, maybe some water drink water for a bit, but then I might switch to either game library dev or gaming in general. So I've got my so I have I think I talked about it the other day. Mr. FPGA. It's an expensive piece of hardware. I love. Mr. FPGA. Start showing me. Wow, forums. Where is it? There's our website. There's a good site for it, and I can't see it right this second. Either way, it's an expensive piece of hardware, but what it is, it's an FPGA and it emulates the hardware. I must leave. Good luck and happy birthday, Apex. Thank you very much. Thank you for the conversation and the contribution as always. And yeah, if I don't see you around, have a good weekend. But either way, it emulates hardware, and then you can play the games on it. And there's a bunch of cores, as they are called, available for it. So rather than having my Sega Genesis and my Super Nintendo, my Nintendo, and the TurboGrafx and the PC Engine and whatnot all out on cabinets and stuff, they get put in boxes and neatly saved and put away, where they can be dry and free from sunlight, and I can play those consoles off that one device. I could do it on the PC. PC emulation is, considering the power of PCs right now, is a viable option. But it's something I like doing. So I might do a bit of that on Monday and Tuesday, actually, because Tuesday is again a day off. So I booked a couple of days. Let's go back to here. So the one thing, going back to Riva, the command line, the one thing I do like about the tooling is I get to see this at a glance in structure, right? The command line doesn't give you that. The command line gives you this massive list of red things, and I can do the commits I can do the diffs in here, right? And it just gives me that flexibility. Had I used the command line, though, that probably would have saved me this, because I would have done git status. So this was less likely to happen. But again, that team member that you have that is not paying as much attention, I say, as I could have been the one, right? And that needs to be changed. That needs to refactor this, adjust namespaces. Yeah, I was going to say that's going to change a whole lot of things. Move models to view model. This entire GraphQL API I will change as well. The more I'm thinking about it, I'm not going to go with this view model approach. I'm actually going to swap it out so that the GraphQL is just touching the database directly with the DB context. That will give me, I think I can still hide columns there and protect properties. But being that the context is built specifically for this, I don't think that should be as much of a problem. Or rather, I'll create a view context. But that way, I can use the features of GraphQL a little better because it will hook directly into the entity framework, and it'll actually flex the queries more appropriately. So I'm going to change this anyway for clarity on purpose. We spent in a meeting today, we spent 10 minutes discussing what DTO was compared to other things. Okay, so this is all removing now. Remove project from planning item. That is all that. Yeah, and I may actually stream over the weekend with some game stuff because I have a bit of spare time, and a full day to myself tomorrow. Okay, so I just want to finish this one last piece, and then we'll so when we add a planning item now, our planning item, we don't need the project, right? So we can get rid of that. And we can get rid of the project store here. And we can get rid of the project store load. And we can get rid of the project there. And then if we go into the actual store features, planning item is right. When we add a planning item, the planning item no longer needs a project attached to it. So the right feature and the service, planning item service. When we add the planning item, we no longer need the project identifier. Okay. So that should run. I either need a screen there so I can see when ads are running, or I need to move windows around, because I apologize if you were just behind ads. All I'm doing is removing the planning item from the screen though, so you shouldn't miss much. So we go to new item now. We should be able to go in here, and then this requirement is, anybody else contributing to this project? No. This is a closed source project because, again, it is something I intend to turn into a product. I stream it so that I can gather opinions and thoughts and experiences on agile practices. My experience is my experience, but if I ever feel that it's not going to be a product, it will get open sourced immediately. But yeah, it would be nice to be able to say, yeah, I can have contributions, but I feel that would make quite a difficult experience. The Drink Water project I work on is intended to be collaborative. That is Mondays and Tuesdays. But I do share components of this as well. So the Kafka components I have and the mediator components I use, I do open source those pieces, and that will go as I go forward. If there's pieces of the software that could be useful independently, I will happily take suggestions for those pieces and work on open source in those libraries. So there is, actually, it's easy to do it. Shared. So those two pieces are actually shared components. The mediator outbots, bit more niche. And I did develop a third one, which I haven't used recently, but it's a kind of a mediator saga. So when things happen inside of an application, so when events are happening because of things triggering, etc., maybe you need to trigger an event, like a publish to something, once certain piece of information have been gathered. There is another project in there that is a saga, so that you can actually introduce and it's all code generation. It could use that to pull all these events together and publish an event, or do something beyond that. So that's the third project that was part of this, but I changed the way I designed it, so that's why the mediator outbots exists. The Kafka extensions are right now are the ability to kind of subscribe and publish, etc. And it's just a wrapper for Kafka setup. So I do share some components, but not everything. So let's get the thing I'm after. So auto documentation. So this is exactly the sort of stuff that would be oh no. Why is my user not missing? Why is my user missing? Dang it. Oh, planning items, projects. More to remove. So the query side of things, this no longer exists. Oh, actually, that's a technical lie. What are you doing? So view. The query side here, the planning item by tenant spec, this needs to get removed because there's no project attached. So I've still not changed that piece. The domain entities project, planning item, sorry, project goes away there. That will always cause a problem. Tests, unsurprisingly. What broke? Yeah. Expected project identifier, expected project ID. Thought I changed them. I didn't revert that. So I removed the project identifier from there. I mean, Riva, the reason you asked was just to see if there's like how, if there's an opportunity to collaborate, or whether there's whether it's just me working on it. I do have a friend that I have actually asked to work on it with me, but timescales don't really permit that. And obviously, being that I stream a lot of it, we'd have to figure out work that could be done off stream and on stream, and I'd have to cherry pick what I would work on. So right now, as chaotic as this is, it's a solo dev thing. Okay. I suppose it's my stack. So, yeah, same topic. Like, if there's questions about the architecture, if there's things that you want to understand more, if you want to dig deeper, if you ever want to do that, I am more than happy to talk about it. The stream does not have to mean getting the code produced. So if you want to learn how I've done something, that's always open. Thank you very much for the follow, by the way. That's something that I'm always happy to divert and talk about, right? So the stream is never about let me get as much code done as possible. The stream is I code, I talk, and if we have questions and diversions, then they happen. I've learned to lean into that part of streaming. Okay, so let's go over here again. Let's try this once more before I call it. So the feature request is this. The description is this. 05, 24, 2024. Is that actually adding anything? Planning items, DBO tables, planning items. Oh, those are really light. Planning has outbox, right? Why didn't you build your tables? Or did you build your tables in your lane? Oh, there you go. That's the tables. Okay, nothing there. How much time has passed since the initial commit? How long have I been working on this project? I'm going to say 8 months. Let's find out. Is there a... Is there a way of finding it out? 7 months ago in the scripts. 8 months ago on the init. About 8 months. I mean... Eight months seems about right. Init SQL. Yeah. Tenant management 8 months ago. That's the core, the dev password thing. So why are you still there? Oh, because that's main. Hold on, development. Yeah, I haven't merged back into main in a while. That's why they're all 5 months old. But yeah, 8 months. It's been a journey. Why do you not have a name? So that view, by the way. Oh, we had a duplication again. So what that is I've received something. So I've received the tenant and the tenant user. The tenant user has gone and created this record, and then so there's a kind of an acquire pattern that I use that is kind of create if not exist, essentially, but then gives back the ID. So it's like, hey, give me an ID for this, please, and if it doesn't exist, it'll create a stub for it. It's to try and it's a mechanism of avoiding data integrity issues. So if these messages come out of order, if I get the tenant user, which I did before I had the user record, then it will try and acquire the user. Now, what it's meant to do when it does that is semaphore. So if two hit at the same time, it should be locked and the next one should come in behind it. And it's semaphore because it's on a task rather than a lock, because the lock won't deal well with tasks. Or the async stuff, sorry. So that should lock, because I have it limited to 1. And that pattern's worked pretty solidly since I made that change. So that's worrying. These are pretty much all much of a muchness. I probably should create an acquire base at this point that does the semaphores and just calls the impl, because ultimately it's this that differs, and even that doesn't differ that much. But anyway, so the problem there is it created this record, but it also then inserted this record at the same time. So yeah, that's why that's not showing. So I should be able to go over here again now and go to new item. Why are you not working? Query users for tenant. Now there's no users. Oh, because tenant users, user ID 1. User ID 1. So that's the indicator. The tenant user definitely acquired that first one, and then the user came in and was like, I'll just create a new user. So that's why that happened. Are you still not giving the users? Okay, well, I am out of time. I have got to go. So I will be back on Monday. We'll do some drink water on Monday, and probably some games later in the stream. I probably will stream over the weekend randomly, but those will be gaming streams more than likely. I'm not going to go and stream on my different account for the games. I'm going to stay on this. I actually have TBD developer that I did for gaming, so that I could separate gaming from dev, but I don't think it really matters. So, One Line, thank you very much for the suggestion. I will definitely take that. I look forward to Community Day. I hope that's going well. And if I heard correct, you're taking some time off streaming for your new job. So, where do I put this? I need to put this somewhere quickly without losing it. Correct. Gotcha. Community Day, yay. Unresolved. New issue. Suggestion. Starting Monday, no streams for me for 2 weeks. Oh no. Well, I won't feel bad if I go along on Monday then. I would have definitely ended the stream before 12:30 on Monday. So I will potentially stream a lot longer on Monday. Maybe right up onto the back of Seto's stream, because no sorcery story. Who else do I go into most? Canny, unless Canny stream as well. Yeah, but either way, I'll have a long stream on Monday. Suggestion: automated feature notes, release notes from one. I will figure out a way, by the way, of I'm going to put credits somewhere in this application, right? Because if I'm doing this on stream and I'm asking people for assistance, then the least I can do is give relative respect for suggestions. So that's something I want to do. You will hopefully have an obligationless, wonderful day. It's helping. So, yeah, gaming on stream might be interesting. I was going to try and put out a list of games that I might play, but I'm just going to download every single Genesis, every single Super Nintendo game, every single NES game, every single Super Nintendo game, Sega Master System game, and that I own onto the device and kind of pick and choose and see what happens. Because I don't really feel like playing something very modern. So yeah. But anyway, let's go and raid. We're going to raid Frank, because Frank streams on Fridays, and I think that's the good thing to do. And I'll remember to actually raid today. So Frank is a cloud architect. He's an awesome guy, super friendly, and knows his stuff with Azure Cloud. He is an advocate. So please say hi. And I will be back on Monday. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you around in Community Day, hopefully. So thank you very much. Take care. Have a good one all. Bye.